Part 29. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 281. Chapter 281 Chapter 281 Reminiscing about the past. Tentation. Zhang Xiao wrapped herself up, leaving only her two eyes exposed, and walked in the snow, trembling even as she spoke. She didn't expect it to be so cold in Tengtu Mountain and the wind was so strong. Secretary Mo, how long do we have until we get to where we live? Mo Zhangxiang glanced around and replied, it's about 500 meters away. Zhang Xiao walked forward resignedly. They were not very lucky. The car was about to reach the top of the mountain when it suddenly broke down. They thought they could walk there by themselves not far away, but they didn't expect the road outside to be so difficult to walk. When Zhang Xiao heard Mo Zhangxiang calling her, she turned around cutely, and a snowball hit her face, followed by Mo Zhangxiang's laughter. Zhang Xiao casually grabbed a handful of snow in his hand, rolled it into a ball and headed towards Mo Zhangxiang. Mo Zhangxiang was hit on the spot, and the snowball split and fell. Ha 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 ha. Zhang Xiao smiled happily, then a snowball hit her arm, and she quickly fought back. The two of them were having a good time on the snow. In the end, both of them were lying on the snow, panting slightly. When I was young, we often came to Tengtu Mountain in summer, we would go exploring in the deep forest in winter, there would be big snowball fights just like before. Mo Zhangxiang recalled the past. Did you lose it in a winter like this? Zhang Xiao said lightly. Mo Zhangxiang apologized guiltily, Xiao, I'm sorry, it's my sister who didn't take good care of you. Since you apologize, I will forgive you. Momo Zhang Xiao turned to look at her with a smile. Mo Zhangxiang met her eyes, with shock in his pupils and a dry throat. Xiao, do you remember, Zhang Xiao never called her by her name when she was a child. It was always Momo, and Momo called her that. What she said just now reminded her in a trance that when she was a child, she was like a little tail that always followed behind her. Zhang Xiao blinked his big eyes and nodded gently, well, I remembered it, including what happened in our family, I remember it very clearly. Mo Zhangxiang was completely panicked. She didn't want her to know that she actually remembered it on her own and pursed her dry lips. Xiao, since you want to come, then you promise my sister not to provoke them, okay? Why, do you mean to let them get away with it and continue to live a comfortable life like human beings? You can accept it, but I can't accept it, Zhang Xiao said seriously. I said, I will not let them go unpunished, I will make them pay the price accordingly, Mo Zhangxiang said firmly. Zhang Xiao hit her mercilessly, what capital do you have now to make them pay the corresponding price? You can't even protect yourself now. Mo Zhangxiang lowered his eyes, not daring to look at Zhang Xiao face to face. Xiao, you have someone to protect you. I can rest assured. Whether I can make them pay the price is my business. Doing things that are not in line with your abilities is the stupidest thing. Do you want to be that stupid person? Zhang Xiao wanted to provoke her and make her talk about what happened back then. Mo Zhangxiang stood up and did not answer Zhang Xiao, but urged her, quickly go to the accommodation. Zhang Xiao, this woman's mouth is really strict and she can't pry out anything. Zhang Xiao had no choice but to give up and follow her. She still had plenty of time. Anyway, we have arrived at Tengtu Mountain, are we still worried that we won't be able to find any clues? End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 282. Chapter 282 Chapter 282 Major Car Accident. Zhang Xiao followed Mo Xiangzhang to the place where they stayed. She originally thought it was a B&B with a hot spring, but she didn't expect it to be a villa with complete furniture and good heating equipment. A middle-aged woman came to receive them. You two ladies, my name is Wang Qifen. I will be responsible for your food in the past few days. Wang Qifen looked at them with a smile. Hello, Aunt Wang. Mo Zhangxiang and Zhang Ziaxi spoke together. Wang Qifen smiled and guided them. There are 4 rooms upstairs. You can choose the one you like. I live downstairs. If you need anything, you can come to me. Wang Qifen opened all 4 rooms and let them choose. Zhang Xiaoxiao chose a room with a better view and Mo Zhangxiang chose the one next to her. You 2 ladies, you take a rest first, I'll stir-fry the vegetables, and you watch the time and come down to eat. Wang Qifen explained and went downstairs. Zhang Shishi and Mo Zhangxiang both went back to their rooms with a tacit understanding. Zhang Ziaxi took off his clothes, patted the snow on them, lay on the bed, picked up his phone and checked it, but there was still no signal, so he turned his back on it. Ziaxi was lying on the bed. There is no signal and I want to contact the boss, what should I do? Zhang Shi was tossing and turning in bed. Finally, he was really bored, so he went downstairs to see if he could have lunch. As soon as he walked into the hall, he smelled the aroma of cooking. Following the aroma, he found the kitchen and squatted in the pot while watching it. Peanuts and pig's trotters, the glutton in the stomach was instantly aroused. Aunt Wang, can I have a bowl of peanut pig's trotters? Zhang Xiaoxiao asked with a blushing face. Wang Chunfen smiled, scooped a bowl for Zhang Xiaoxiao, and handed it to her. This is originally made for you, try it quickly to see if it tastes good. Zhang Ziaxi blushed and took the bowl. He took a sip with a spoon. The aroma of pig's trotters and peanuts were perfectly combined. It couldn't be more delicious. The bottom of the bowl quickly reached the bottom. He licked his lips with satisfaction, and he praised, Aunt Wang's soup is really delicious. Would you like another bowl? Wang Qifen asked. Zhang Xiaoxiao nodded, and Wang Qifen scooped another bowl for her. Zhang Xiaoxiao drank the soup and chatted, Aunt Wang, how many years have you been here in Tengtishan? Almost 20 years, Wang Qifen replied while cooking. When Zhang Xiao heard her talk about 20 years, he rolled his eyes and continued chatting, Aunt Wang, is there anything that particularly impressed you in the past 20 years? Yes, for example, one year a family had a serious car accident here and all of them died. Zhang Xiaoxiao pretended to be surprised and asked, all of them died? Wouldn't that be tragic? It's very tragic. I heard that there were 2 children in the car. If those 2 children are still alive, based on time, they would be as old as you. That was indeed tragic. Have you heard that the car accident was caused by the above reasons? Zhang Xiao told her intuitively that the Mo family was involved in the car accident that year. Then I'm not sure. If you want to know the specific details, you can ask old man Li who lives halfway up the mountain. He was the first person to discover the car accident. Wang Kui held the dish in his hand and said, quickly went out to eat. Zhang Xiaoxiao helped bring the dishes out, and he didn't forget to ask, Aunt Wang, what does old man Li do? Even a mountain guard who has no children is pitiful. Wang Qifen put away the bowls and chopsticks. When you are young, go and ask your sister to come down for dinner. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 283. Chapter 283. Chapter 283. Caught. How do you know she is my sister? Wang Qifen laughed out loud immediately. When I was young, Aunt Wang was not blind yet. You 2 looked almost like the same mold. Are you not sisters or something? Zhang Xiao, what kind of stupid question was she asking? Zhang Xiao turned around and went upstairs to ask Mo Zhangxiang to come downstairs for dinner. Mo Zhangxiang happened to come down from upstairs. It's time to eat, Zhang Xiao said. The 3 of them sat together to eat. The atmosphere was harmonious, and the meal ended happily. Wang Qifen went to wash the dishes. Zhang Xiaoxiao asked if there was a landline at home to make calls, so he went to her room to call the boss, and the call was quickly connected. Our Fu Jianxiao's mellow voice passed through the electric current into Zhang Xiao's ears. Zhang Xiaoxi curled the phone cord with his fingers, his face flushed. "Uncle Wu, have you seen the photo I sent you?" "Well, little rascal, you are still trying to seduce Uncle Wu in the middle of the night." Zhang Xiaoxiao's ears were bloodshot and he defended himself. "I didn't. It snowed in Wushirongcheng. The snow in Tengtu Mountain was very thick. I had a snowball fight with Secretary Mo today." "Happy?" "Well, I'm very happy." "Uncle Wu, when will you come back?" Zhang Xiao found that he was becoming more and more attached to Fu Jianxiao. "I'll pick you up after I've taken care of things here." Zhang Xiao said in disappointment, "Uncle Wu, I'm about to take the exam, you have to hurry up and pick me up." "Good. Uncle Wu, my mobile phone has no signal. If you miss me, just call this number." Zhang Xiaoxiao was deeply afraid that Fu Jianxiao could not find her. Little did he know that someone knew her whereabouts. Fu Jianxiao chuckled in a low voice, "Okay. Fifth uncle, don't you have anything to say to me?" Zhang Xiao found that he was the only one talking there, and the boss seemed a little cold. "Yes." Fu Jianxiao put one hand in his pocket and leaned against the wall. His voice was low and confusing, "Uncle Wu wants to sleep with you." "Zhangxi." Zhang Xiao said with a blushing face, "Rogue." Fu Jianxiao answered her seriously, "A woman who doesn't want to sleep with her is a hypocrite." "You." Zhang Xiaoxi couldn't talk to him anymore, so he hung up the phone in a panic. On Fu Jianxiao's side, Wen Yuuru looked at the man holding a mobile phone with a smile on his face, and couldn't help but sigh at the greatness of love, which can turn a big iceberg into a fool in an instant. "Senior, are you ready? You have to go out with me," Wen Yuuru reminded. Fu Jianxiao gave the phone to Luo Yi, walked to Wen Yuuru, raised his hand slightly, and Wen Yuuru took his arm. "Senior, those people are not so easy to deal with." "Yeah," Fu Jianxiao responded lightly, not paying attention at all. Wen Yuuru looked at this man who was always calm and admired him. The two of them walked out arm in arm and were surrounded by reporters. They knew who did it without even thinking. Reporter 1, "Mr. Fu, it is reported online that the president has disappeared. Are you here to confuse the public?" Reporter 2, "Mr. Fu, are you out to protect the Wen family now?" Reporter 3, "Mr. Fu, it's rumored that you don't like Miss Wen at all, right?" Reporter 4, "Wen Xiaoxiao, it's rumored that the person you like is someone else, right?" Reporter 5, "Wen Shi." A lot of reporters were chattering with questions. If there were no bodyguards to stop them, they would all swarm in. Fu Jianxiao just glanced at the first reporter who asked the question, and said to the bodyguard next to him, "Arrest him for spreading rumors about the president, and deal with it as you want." End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 284. Chapter 284. Chapter 284. People with evil intentions. The reporter never thought that Fu Jianxiao would be so bold. He is not a policeman. Police, he is not a military man who dares to let a security guard arrest him, but in such an above-board situation, don't be too arrogant. Of course, the reporter would not let these people arrest him on such an occasion, and resisted strongly, "You have no right to arrest me. It is illegal for you to arrest me like this. With so many people watching, you have no right to do this." "Of course we have the right to do this." The leading security guard took out his identity, and the red-cased book proved his identity. The reporter flipped through it reluctantly. When he saw the contents, he became silent. He waited obediently and followed the security personnel. His future was ruined. And this small commotion made all the reporters present look very ugly, and they were all wondering if there was something inappropriate in their words just now. If they were like the person just now, their lives would basically be ruined. When Yuru took Fuchinexio's arm and walked into the private room. There were more than 20 people sitting inside, all of whom had their own agendas. Yu, why don't you see your brother here? The speaker was Zhong Kui, who was at Wen's house last night. Wen Yuru always had a light smile on his face, polite and dignified. Uncle Zhong, didn't you say that you hosted a banquet for me alone to celebrate my marriage? Why did so many people come to bless me suddenly? Zhong Kui explained to himself with a smile. Yu, isn't it true that everyone saw your Weibo post and wanted to bless you? You don't blame Uncle Zhong, do you? What are you talking about, Uncle Zhong? Everyone here is my elder and you are coming to bless me. Of course I am happy when you talk to him with ease. Haha, you girl is very sweet. I just heard some noise outside and thought it was because your brother showed up. Zhong Kui led them to their seats. Fuchinexio helped Wen Yuru pull out the chair like a gentleman, and waited for her to take a seat before he sat down next to her. This scene was undoubtedly a show of affection and expressed the Fu family's position. Uncle Zhong, am I still surprised? It's obviously a private gathering outside, but why are there so many reporters? If my brother hadn't asked me to bring the guards with me in the morning, I would have been surrounded by this time and it would be difficult to move. I don't know who spread the rumor that my brother had disappeared and that my senior and I were out to confuse the public. I asked my brother's guards to arrest him on the spot. I don't know who spread the rumor. Wen Yuru paused as he spoke, watching Zhong Kui look at him with that suspicious look, and said deliberately, Uncle Zhong, you came to my house yesterday to look for my brother, and my brother was not here. Could this news have been spread, right? Zhong Kui's fake smile almost broke. He was frightened and said, you can't say this nonsense. If you take off the label of spreading rumors, Uncle Zhong, and I can step down. Uncle, why are you nervous? I'm just guessing how you could step down after doing such a good job. Then who do you think spread such rumors? When Yuru asked him, his eyes swept over the people sitting there. Of all people. You, this may be a random guess, but it can be investigated by the police. However, sometimes rumors are not groundless. If your brother has such a rumor, it will naturally be self-defeating. How about you ask the president to come? Now, we still have a lot of work to report to him. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 285. Chapter 285. Chapter 285. Has your brother disappeared? Uncle Zhong, I think you should know better than me where my brother is. After all, my brother has been with you for a long time. If you can't find anyone, can I still find him? Wen Yuru said with a smile. Look at him. Of course we couldn't find anyone, so we came to ask you. Is it true that your brother disappeared as the reporter said? Zhong Kui deliberately tested. Uncle Zhong, you have to take responsibility for what you said. My brother's security department is right next to me. When you were pointed to the person who had just come to deal with the reporter. Zhong Kui's expression changed on the spot. The people in the security department were the president's personal bodyguards, specializing in handling some difficult matters. He heard what he just said, and he really needed to be in danger. His appearance here has a different meaning. Now there are two possibilities. The first is that the president is really injured and cannot show up. The second possibility is that he is not injured and just wants to eradicate those who have ulterior motives. Uncle Zhong doesn't have such thoughts. He is just worried about your brother. Zhong Kui now wants to put himself in a neutral state. After all, he is just a stranger. Wen Yuru smiled and said, Uncle Zhong, I know you don't have such thoughts. After all, you don't have such strength. I know you are not the only one who wants to know where my brother is, but what should I do? I really don't know where my brother is. It's a big deal if the president can't be found, do you understand? The bald man spoke. Wen Yuuru looked at his serious expression and curled his lips. Uncle Wang, I don't need to report my brother's whereabouts to you, right? You are not allowed to report the president's whereabouts to me, but we received news that the president was assassinated and injured. We just want to make sure whether the news is true. Vice President Wang stared at Wen Yuuru with a stern look on his face, his attitude tough, but not at all as polite as Zhong Kuina. It's not that he can't speak as well as Zhong Kui. Anyone who can sit here is not the best among the best. He has long been familiar with the way of talking about people and ghosts. He didn't say this to Wen Yuuru. Only one possibility is that they didn't take Wen Yuuru seriously at all. Their purpose today was to determine Wen Runian's condition. Isn't it up to you to confirm whether the news is true or false? Wen Yuuru bent his fingers into fists and placed them on his lap. The information we received is that the president went to your house. Wen Yuuru stood up from the stool in an instant and slapped her the dining table. Uncle Wang, pay attention to the attitude of your words. Since you don't want to say it, just stay here today. As soon as Deputy Wang finished speaking, a group of armed people came in. Wen Yuuru stared at the bald man angrily. Deputy Director Wang, what are you doing? Are you trying to restrict my personal movements? Yes, Deputy Director Wang replied calmly. Deputy Director Wang, you don't have this right. Are you challenging the law? Wen Yuuru was not afraid at all with Fu Chenxiu by her side. Deputy Director Wang sneered, without your brother, so what if I challenged the law? So why don't you obediently tell me where your brother is? I don't know. Wen Yuuru sat down and stopped talking to him. You don't know? Of course I have a way to find out, so you can continue to stay here, Deputy Director Wang said and walked out. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 286. Chapter 286. Chapter 286. Breaking the Face. When he passed by Wen Yuuru, Fu Chenxiu, who had never said a word since he first came in, spoke. His deep cold eyes looked at the bald man lightly, and his voice with an extremely oppressive feeling sounded, Deputy Director Wang, are you sure you want to keep me here? Fu Chenxiu, who already has a strong sense of presence, uses such a shallow voice to make people's hair stand on end. Deputy Director Wang met Fu Chenxiu's eyes, and cold sweat began to break out on his forehead. However, now was not the time to shrink back. The Fu family's noodles still had to be given, so he paid attention to his attitude. Mr. Fu, how long do you want you to sit here? Minutes later, what we wanted to know was accomplished, and the Fu family's annual tax payment can be reduced accordingly. How much tax Fu Chenxiu has to pay in a year, I'm afraid only the company's finance department knows. Deputy Director Wang is trying to please Fu Chenxiu, so he gives such an attractive condition. But I don't want to sit for a few minutes. Fu Chenxiu's expression was always indifferent, and his fingers were tapping on the table, like the master of everything. The smile on Deputy Director Wang's face was still unbearable, and he didn't even want to make that hypocritical expression anymore. Mr. Fu, are you trying to make an enemy of me? Is not a question, it is an affirmative sentence. Deputy Director Wang, from the moment we came in, you started threatening my fiancé and wanted to do something beyond your capabilities. It really impressed me. Fu Chenxiu stood up, a full head taller than Deputy Director Wang. He looked down at Deputy Director Wang. Fu Chenxiu's words have already shown his attitude, he will not help him. Deputy Director Wang knew that he would not be able to please this giant Buddha, so he simply broke up and said, Mr. Fu, you can stay here. When Wang sits in that position, I believe the bargaining chips will be different. Fu Chenxiu sneered, Deputy Director Wang, are you sure you can leave now? What do you mean? Deputy Director Wang felt a big uneasy feeling in his heart. Literally, I need to help Deputy Director Wang, please explain. Fu Chenxiu snapped his fingers, and the people who originally surrounded Fu Chenxiu were quickly surrounded by another group of people. Both sides were armed, and the atmosphere in the private room was tense, depressing, and hard to breathe. Zhong Kui had been hiding in the corner early. He knew that things today were not that simple. If he really took action, he would definitely be the one who couldn't escape. Deputy Director Wang, I have to trouble you to stay here with me for a day. Fu Chenxiu smoked a cigarette and lit it, holding the cigarette between his thin lips. Deputy Director Wang's face at this time was as dark as the bottom of a pot. President Fu, do you have to do this? Deputy Director Wang, you were rude to my fiancée first. I just returned the gift. Courtesy is reciprocated. This is the way I always do things. Fu Chenxiu blew out the smoke ring in his face. Mr. Fu, even if you can stop me, you can't stop the people outside. Before I came in, I had already greeted them. If I didn't go out, I would blow up Miss Wen's house immediately. It just so happens that Deputy Director Wang and I have the same idea, but I, Deputy Director Wang, have one more idea than you do, and that is that your 5-year-old son is very cute. Fu Chenxiu seemed to be talking about something insignificant. Things are average. You. Deputy Director Wang's face looked terribly ugly. Didn't he send his son abroad a long time ago? End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 287. Chapter 287. Chapter 287. Choosing a team. Fu Chenxiu threw the cigarette on the ground, glanced at everyone here, and said indifferently, everyone here has one from each family. I invited him to go on vacation. I'm afraid it will take some time to come back. The expressions of the other 20 or so people all changed in unison. Everyone felt like Ming Zheng. They were being threatened. If they wanted to move, it would be equivalent to giving up the lives of their family members. Fu Chenxiu is a ruthless man, and he never expected that Wenyuru would find such a backer. But things have reached this point, and even if they want to stop, none of them will be able to escape when Runian comes back. Everyone is weighing the pros and cons. Mr. Fu, don't you think this is too despicable? A capable-looking woman with short hair said. Fu Chenxiu sneered, when it comes to despicability, every one of you is better than me. The woman's face turned red. At least we didn't use family members to threaten her. Aren't you just using me to threaten my brother now? Wenyuru responded directly. Anyone who has the ability can fight for that position. Your brother obviously doesn't have the ability to do that position well. What we did is not wrong. We want to lead our country to the road of prosperity and strength for our family, the woman argued to Wenyuru. Every decision my brother makes is definitely correct and has been implemented very well. There is no public resentment. Why do you say he doesn't have the ability? Wenyuru retorted to her words. How do you know that there is no public dissatisfaction, and there is no poverty alleviation in places you can't see, and we can help those people get out of poverty and live a better life? Your brother has not done this yet, the woman said about her work. It's like he's become a different person. Although Wenyuru studied economics at university, he is not completely ignorant of political matters. You said you had a way to lift the country out of poverty, so why didn't you propose it in the People's Assembly at that time? Or was it that at the very beginning, the plan has been eliminated? You. The woman pointed at Wenyuru angrily, as if she had been stepped on. Looking at her expression, Wenyuru knew that she was right. Some people blame their leaders for their incompetence. I don't want to have a dispute with you. His eyes turned and stayed on Zhong Kui. Uncle Zhong, it was you who invited me to the banquet, shouldn't you send me out now? Or are you with them? Zhong Kui. He knew that this fire was going to burn him. Now he was allowed to choose, let him stand in line, and not give him the chance to be a mere wallflower. If he chooses Wenyu, then he must protect her and send her away safely. If he chooses to side with the team, then he must find a way so that they must win, otherwise they will have to move their heads. Zhong Kui showed an ugly smile. You, why don't you look, you are sitting. Zhong Kui's last few words were still in his throat. Before he could say them out, he heard Wenyuoru's reminder, Uncle Zhong, please think carefully before answering. Some words cannot be taken back after they are spoken. Zhong Kui. What's your point in threatening Consul Zhong? Consul Zhong is on our side without even thinking about it, otherwise why would he invite you here? The woman answered for Zhong Kui. Zhong Kui's face turned blue with fright. You, don't listen to her nonsense. They insist on coming with them. I have no way to refuse. You should know that Uncle Zhong is such an official and can't afford to offend him. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 288. Chapter 288 Chapter 288 Official of Sesame and Mung Bean. Zhong Kui, are you going to side with the Wen family? The woman glared at him angrily. Zhong Kui was in a hurry here. He didn't say he was taking sides. He wanted to remain neutral, but couldn't he? Finance Joe, what you are saying is that the elders are concerned about the marriage of the younger generation. How come you are saying that you are taking sides? Zhong Kui, what you said is right and wrong. You are already in it now, and it is impossible to get out. Zhou Chenzu tore up the last piece of window paper. Zhong Kui didn't even have the last piece of window paper. He didn't want to express his position. It was no longer possible. His face was as dark as the bottom of a pot. He cursed countless times in his heart, a stupid woman. Uncle Zhong, have you made up your mind or not? Are you going to let me go? The snipe and the clam are fighting, and the fisherman benefits. Wenyuoru is the fisherman. She hopes that everyone here will fall out, and it is maintained by profit. A relationship, as good as you can expect it to be, is best divided. Both sides are forcing each other, and Zhong Kui is weighing the pros and cons in his mind. No matter which side he is on, as long as he makes the wrong choice, the end is inevitable. On the Wen family side, only those around him know whether Wen Runian is really injured. The marriage between Wenyuoru and Fu Jinexiu has received the support of the Fu family, which undoubtedly means that they have financial control. And these people, with the support of the military, control the military government, which is equivalent to controlling the entire country. After weighing the pros and cons in his mind, Zhong Kui naturally wanted to choose the side of this group of people. You, Finance Minister Zhou, aren't you making things difficult for me? I am an official like Sesame and Meng Daodu, and I am dispensable to you. A small role, not important, not important. Zhong Kui still wants to ensure that neither party is offended. Zhong Kui, you don't want to choose. Zhou Chenzu's eyes were sharp and his words were forceful. Uncle Zhong, you are a very humble official. Are you in charge of all diplomatic matters? Wenyuoru's smile did not reach his eyes. Zhong Kui. It seems that struggling to the death is useless, and a choice must be made. He took 2 tentative steps forward. The door of the private room was opened, and a man in uniform walked in. Behind the man was a company of men in uniforms with weapons in hand. Deputy Director Wang's face changed immediately when he saw the man appear, and he frowned tightly. The man walked up to Wenyuoru step by step, stretched out his hand to pull him into his arms, and glanced coldly at everyone present. There was a chilling murderous look on his angular face. Deputy Director Wang, are you here? The woman who threatens me here, who gave you the courage, is it Lu Tian? Deputy Master Wang's pupils shrank slightly, and when he looked at the man, he had to put on a smile. Nanbei, why didn't you say anything when you came back? Deputy Director Wang, do I need to report my whereabouts to you? If I didn't come back secretly, I wouldn't have known that things were going to change. There are so many people in our army who are stronger than Lu Tian. If you don't choose, you have to choose such a person. You're a coward, I don't even want anyone to help you, there's something wrong with your vision. Deputy Director Wang's face was livid, and the man's mocking tone was not important. What was important was that his confidence was wiped out by this man. His most confident support was gone, and his chance of winning was reduced to 20%. Not only Deputy Director Wang's face was ugly, but other people's faces were equally ugly, and their faces were all pale and pale. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 289. Chapter 289 Chapter 289 Don't talk nonsense. Nan Bei, I don't even know who your woman is, so why are you bullying your woman? Deputy Director Wang asked blindly. Nan Bei held Wen Yueru's waist with such force that he wanted to break her waist. He whispered in her ear and said through gritted teeth, I'm going to put a label on you right now. Wen Yueru looked at him with a headache, her eyebrows were knitted into a knot, and her big watery eyes stared at him. Are you crazy? Don't talk nonsense. You're not crazy, the man replied simply. Then he cast his cold eyes on Deputy Director Wang and opened his thin lips slightly. Didn't you see who the person in my arms was? Bei and Nan, Yu is Mr. Fu's fiancé. Deputy Director Wang pretended to remind him, but in fact he had a deeper meaning and wanted to use Wen Yueru to stimulate conflicts between the two. I am her adopted lover. Why do you, Deputy Director Wang, have any objections? The man's narrow eyes were half squinted, full of danger. Nan Bei's answer can be said to have shocked everyone present. The Nan family was the founding father of the country, and its status among the Jun was as high as you can imagine. As the most favored youngest member of the Nan family, he actually admitted here, it was because someone was cheating on her. Where did she put the Nan family's face? After the shock, it was the moment when the mind was clear. Nan Bei admitted here that he had a different relationship with Wen Yueru, which meant that the Wen family now not only had the support of the Fu family, but also the support of the Nan family. In this way, they would not have had the same relationship. The 20% chance of winning became 10%. Zhong Kui saw something was wrong and quietly moved to Wen Yueru's side, thus choosing a team. Zhou Chenzu whispered, a traitor. With Wen Yueru's support from the north and the south, those people did not dare to make any big moves at all, because the people who followed the north and the south, and their dark wooden warehouse entrances, were all pointing at their people. As long as there was any big move, they would definitely do it. The head moved. Nan Bei is not just famous because he is from the Nan family, but more so because he is extremely cruel. How cruel can he be? That is, a person died on the spot in front of him, with blood splattered on his face, and he was still warm. He didn't even feel the heat. I think back then, when this man was captured abroad and seriously injured, he could kill all his captors and return to his own country. There is no need to imagine how cruel such a person is. Deputy Director Wang, I'm here today to support my woman. None of you can escape. Nan Bei's voice was full of anger, and he threatened those people in such an open and honest manner. Deputy Director Wang has thought of countless countermeasures in his mind, trying to remove himself, but it seems to be useless now. He has already said that he is here to support her, how could he not investigate clearly? Nan Bei, even if you are Yu's adopted lover, you shouldn't admit it in front of Mr. Fu. Deputy Director Wang is still trying to stimulate conflict between the two. He doesn't believe that this is it. People can still live in harmony, as any man can tolerate lunch and share a woman. But he thought wrong. Fu Chenxiu didn't care at all, and the two of them would not make their relationship tense because of Wen Yueru. He just said lightly, take care of it, I have to go pick me up when I'm young. Fujinexi's words made them completely understand that Wenyoru and Fujinexi were fake, and Wenyoru and Nanbei were lovers. The three of them knew each other, but why didn't they hear about the relationship between the three of them? End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 290. Chapter 290 Chapter 290 Show me your final trump card. Deputy Director Wang now regrets not investigating the relationship between the three people. Otherwise, he would never have been so passive without making any preparations. Wenyoru has fainted because of the anger of the two men. When they said those words, could they discuss it with her? Fujinexi sat next to him and had nothing to do with himself. Wenyoru remained silent. He faced the grey-faced Deputy Director Wang alone and said in a clear and calm voice, "What other trump cards do you have? You can reveal them. Don't waste my time." Deputy Director Wang was so out of breath that he vomited blood. How could this person be so arrogant? Nanbei looked at him impatiently, picked up the chicken leg on the table, and took a bite. From yesterday to now, in order to deal with Lu Tian, he had not even eaten in a hurry. Deputy Director Wang, I don't believe you are going to do such a big thing without any trump card, otherwise you will really make me look down on you, Nanbei mocked. Deputy Director Wang. Other people are focusing their attention on Deputy Director Wang to see how he will answer. If the answer does not reassure them, the rebellion will only happen in an instant. Deputy Director Wang resisted the pressure brought by those people and gritted his teeth and said, "Nanbei, don't force me." Nanbei licked the corners of his lips, stared at him with half-lidded eyes, and replied, "I'm just forcing you." Deputy Director Wang asked me to see your trump card, let me see if you are smart enough. Deputy Director Wang was also he became desperate, my trump card is to make the entire Ruchin people fall to death with me. The faces of the people standing behind Deputy Director Wang suddenly changed. The internal strife began without the North and the South taking action. The most excited person was Zhou Chenzu. Deputy Director Wang, what do you mean? Do you want me to die with you? Who will do it? Do you have such a right? One of the members, Deputy Director Wang, we agreed at the beginning that we would help you, and when you get your position, you will meet all my requirements. What are you thinking now? You actually want to kill us here. Member 2, Deputy Director Wang, you are too crazy. Member 3, Deputy Director Wang, you want everyone to die with you. How is that possible? A stupid person like you is indeed not suitable for that position. In the face of life, most people will choose life. If life is gone, how can they enjoy the glory and wealth? So naturally they have a falling out with Deputy Director Wang. What are you arguing about? I prepared for failure. I never thought about failure. Are you going to part ways with me now? Deputy Director Wang shouted with a gloomy face. Isn't it true that you have failed now? The Wen family now has the support of the Nan family and the Fu family. Do you think you still have a chance of winning? Someone directly told the current situation. Who said we failed? So what if the Wen family has the support of the Nan family and the Fu family? Everything depends on the final result. No one will pay attention to the details in the middle. I want to use Ruchin now. Threaten them, Deputy Director Wang shouted loudly to calm them down. Member 1, we don't agree with your approach. Even if a person like you gets to that position, it doesn't matter. Without the support of the people, you won't be able to stay there for a long time. As soon as the man finished speaking, the middle of his eyebrows turned a little red, and then he was lying on the ground, with blood staining the floor, and he looked scared. End of this chapter.